And we're back on week 2.
Happy Wednesday. Hello.
On this dialogue podcast,
AKA The D with Tina and Marie.
Hope you enjoyed last week's podcast. Gave you a little introduction on the both of us.
It was very enlightening.
Very, very. I learned a lot about you.
I learned a lot about myself too. Learned a lot about you too.
I hope you did. After 20 odd years, to know that you felt like Mrs. Doubtfire was very enlightening.
The fact that you couldn't pinpoint it, but my sister could.
But you see how quickly she did after she heard
all
it.
Rip. Boom. I know exactly what you mean. You over here giving me the plot of the movie, though.
When you say Mrs. Doubtfire, that's the first thing I'm going to think of.
Of the plot?
You said Mrs. Okay. So
the movie is called Mrs. Doubtfire. And I'm talking about the character, Mrs. Doubtfire. And you gave me the plot of the movie.
We were talking about movies. So if I got it wrong, what exactly were your intentions of saying that you related to Mrs. Doubtfire?
See, I can't. The thing I related the most to Mrs. Doubtfire was just her personality. Her personality was everywhere.
And when you say her personality, you're talking about when Robin Williams turned into Mrs. Doubtfire.
I'm talking about the character Mrs. Doubtfire. I'm not talking about Robin Williams. Okay. I'm not talking about the father. I'm talking about the character nanny that he portrayed as Mrs. Doubtfire. It was just the way she handled situations was hilariously funny, and things that she did I could relate to now as an adult. As a kid, I was probably like, oh, that's crazy. Now I was like, oh, I've done some of those things as an aunt.
That's why you relate to Mrs. Doubtfire.
Right.
See, it just took a little explanation. A little dialogue is what it took.
Oh, you're just going to keep going with this. Okay.
I absolutely love the run by fruiting. I never forgot that part of the movie.
Run by.
It sounds like the run. So it's the part where the new boyfriend took the family out to the swimming pool and invited Mrs. Doubtfire, and she was watching him impose on his family, right? And he was at the bar, and he decided he was going to have some payback after taking some drinks. He took a piece of fruit from the bar and threw it and hit him in the head. And then when he turned around, like, what just happened? She gets up all surprised and, oh, sir, I saw him. It was a disgruntled employee from the back. Maybe they didn't pay him. It was a run by fruiting.
Oh, sir, I saw it. Some angry member of the kitchen staff. Did you not tip them? Oh, the terrorists, they ran that way. It was a run by fruiting.
What is
how do you remember
like my childhood?
Smallest details.
It was filled with movies and dancing and reenactments.
Again,
I remembered it.
And that type of thing is something I would do.
Yeah. You wouldn't probably call it a run by fruiting and say it was a disgruntled employee. You just
I heard it came up. Oh damn! You got hit by something. You all right? Damn, that's crazy. What was it?
Okay, well,
because I have definitely thrown some stuff at people.
Have you now?
Yes, but we're not getting into that. I don't know what the statute of limitations are.
Speaking of the law, let me make sure to mention the opinions expressed in this podcast are our personal opinions and must not be construed as representing the opinion of any institution with which we are or have been affiliated with in our personal lives. Please do not come for us.
Amen. Don't come for us.
Well, I'm happy to say we did get a lot of positive feedback on last week's episode.
Yes, we did.
We also got a lot of questions from last week's episode.
Did we?
We did.
Oh.
So we had some listeners and we had some feedback with a lot of questions. one of the questions that came back was as part of the segment where I mentioned cultural conditioning.
Ah, yes.
So I figured I would elaborate just a little bit more on what cultural conditioning actually meant for me.
Okay.
And for me, it was just the way I was brought up, that as I got older, I realized a lot of my friends, kind of experienced the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
That as we became adults, we still found ourselves doing certain things or certain habits just out of repetition.
Okay. Like what?
For instance, I'll say just a general one. Can you say that you have some families or some cultures who feel children should be seen and not heard? When you have a child who tends to talk up or express themselves, I'm not going to say in a rowdy type of way that, might need some discipline here or there. Just very expressive. It can be looked at as being disobedient compared to other cultures where they nurture that expression. Maybe a little too much. It depends on what you believe. Because, there's some things that I've seen and it's just like, we just gonna let that child just keep on doing that. We just gonna watch them just do this, and it's not a problem. But it's just what I was used to. You don't allow children this. You don't let children do this. You don't. And then you get older, you have your own kids, or you're around your nieces or your nephews or your baby cousins or so, and it's like, why don't we allow them such and such and such and such?
So I was thinking with what you just said, it's like when you said, why don't we? And I'm like, there are certain things that I came to realize why as an adult, that it's like, why are you talking? Like, who's talking to you? Like, with kids, with certain kids that always seem to find themselves in an adult conversation, and I had to stop and then look and be like, I'm sorry, who was talking to you? I could have sworn I was not talking to you. You have an opinion? When did you get one of those? Did you pay a bill?
They're not supposed to be a part of adult conversation.
And I know that's how I was raised, because it was like I ain't got no opinions. They buy my food. They give me a place to sleep. They give me the things that I need. I don't got nothing to say.
I get that.
And so now as an adult, when I see a kid and I'm trying to have a conversation with their mom, and then here comes an opinion that I didn't ask for and has no real context of what I'm talking about, and you all in my conversation, I was like, I see why. Now they was like, you should be seen and not heard.
But do you know that there are some times where some of the wisest things come from out of children?
And that child was seen but not heard. And you know why they were seen and not heard? Because they were sitting there quietly listening and then taking that information. And then it might come up later if you ask that child and say, well, what do you think? And they've heard enough to say, well, this is what I feel.
Some children are raised to just express themselves.
I don't know who raised them. Who raised them? I don't have any, as you know, I don't have any children, so I can't even sit here and say.
All right. Well, since it seems you might be hinting towards me, I raised my child to express themselves. Mm-hmm. Now, keep in mind, I'm not just going to let them run off and do whatever it is they feel like doing.
Right.
I believe that there is a balance. I'm not just going to shut them down in the corner because they're young. I want them to actually be okay with expressing themselves. And there's a lot of times where I can say for myself, with that mindset of children should be seen and not heard, you feel like, or I have felt like, not being understood, not being heard, that a lot of my opinions, a lot of my ideas, I just kept to myself.
Now, I think there has to be some kind of definition made for when you say children are to be seen and not heard.
I mean, that's just a general.
That's very general. I don't necessarily think children shouldn't talk at all.
Right.
I definitely don't think that children should not be able to express themselves. That is not what I'm talking about. But there are certain situations and there is a time and place for everything. And I think that's something that needs to be taught to a child young, because otherwise they will grow to be the type of person that does not know that the boundaries, that there are time and places to say certain things and time and places to be silent.
So a form of raising your child. You teach them there's a time, there's a place for everything.
Yes.
Okay. Now, in those things that you are raising your child to do,
the one I don't have.
There are many children in your life, Tina. Pick one, okay? The many children that you have contributed to.
All of them talk, but go ahead.
Their life. Where did those concepts that you are now passing on to them stem from? And why? Why teach them? Do all of those steps have meaning behind them?
For me, it's just so they don't get on my nerves. Right. For
great.
me,
that's lovely.
It's like, okay, you're annoying. Can we stop talking? Because I don't need to know about your whole day for the third time today. The day isn't even over. Aren't you tired? Don't you have a nap to take? That put the child to sleep.
I mean, I see. Now, let me give a comparison real quick. Now, in growing up, especially with younger family members, there was a concept of, you know how they have that saying, if you don't have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. Mm-hmm. It just kind of turned into, if whatever you say is foolish, just don't say anything. And they would, it is, but they would say, just rest your mouth. Like, your mouth is supposed to be tired because you're talking, and you just want to express something. Like, now today, my child on the video game wants to narrate her way through the game. And it's a constant, look, mommy, I'm about to, look, mommy, I just shot, look, mommy, I just jumped, look, mommy, and it's just like everything inside of me is trying to restrain from saying, rest your mouth. But why would I tell her to rest it when she is expressing herself? It's not anything. I had to start to think about it. It's not detrimental to myself or to her. I just find it at that moment in time highly annoying, and I'm losing patience and tolerance. That's all that it is. And once I realize that within myself, I attempt not to take that out on her by saying, hey, rest your mouth. Go find something else to do. Go, just go. Go figure something out that doesn't involve constant talking for the next 10 minutes.
And that is clearly the difference between mother and aunt.
because you can just ship them off back to
aunt
their
would have been like, are you done? Have you shown me everything you need to show me? Okay. All right, let's stop showing. Okay. Let's not. Don't you want to go take a nap? Let's take a nap.
But by telling them to stop showing, what if you are hindering their creative developmental skills?
I didn't tell her to stop doing what she was doing. I just
said stop showing
it to me. Go find your mom.
If mother is nowhere nearby,
then show it to me later. But as of right, I feel like I gotta say it. I don't snap. I try not to snap on kids. I try. So because and you know,
for clarity, you might have to clarify what snap means.
You know, well, everyone knows what I mean by snap.
Nope, not at all.
Anyway, I figure it out. So what I'm saying is, I feel like I have a lot more patience than a lot of other people do when it comes to kids. I entertain up to an extent. When I can't take anymore, it's like, okay, so let's stick a pin, as my granny used to say, stick a pin in this, and we'll return to it later. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you gotta, hey, I need a break. And I've been told, like, oh, you can't do that to kids. You can't be on and off. You can't be on and off. They don't know when you're on and off. And I was like, I get that. But then you also have to show them limits. Because not everybody is on all the time, every day, when you see them.
Especially when you're raising them to go out into this world.
Right. You have to express to them that there's limits. You have to show them that there really is a meaning to when you say, all right, stop. just that simple.
I get that. Because otherwise, there's that chance that they can go on and on and on and feel like everything and everybody is supposed to entertain that.
Like, oh, okay, well,
and
my mommy says, no, I said stop. So if I say stop, I'll stop too. But I can understand other situations where you tell them stop, but then you continue to do it. That's also something that people should do. Like if you're playing and you're like, all right, stop, because they're getting you, and then you just go back to playing with them.
Yeah, that's just confusing.
That is confusing. I'll give
and then
that.
when you actually do snap, they don't know what just happened.
Right, because you
were playing the whole time. So, I mean, okay. So everything we do is a lesson, so to say. Getting back to the conditioning part of it, let's say, for instance, outside of that general example of the whole rest your mouth movement.
Stick up in.
Outside of all of that, there's things like it, and it can be cultural, it can be societal, things within your society, it can be religious. I know for me personally, growing up, we might not have made church all the time. So when it was time for like the New Year's and everybody was watching the ball drop and doing the whole countdown.
You was at watch night service.
No, see, we didn't even make watch night service.
Oh, okay.
We would all be gathered in the room, and we had at that time the Book of Common Prayer. You read the certain prayers, and that goes through into the new year. By the time I got up off of my knees, they already dropped the ball. Whatever concerts was ever done, I had to record on the VCR the whole thing so I can go back and watch it after midnight because I missed all of it. And I realized that it was something that just became a habit. That as I got older and I started to go, to services and, things on my own, at that time, servicing to go through to midnight. And then we would just kind of hang and chill or fellowship, whatever you choose to call it. And I started to notice it was inching towards midnight. I can stay in fellowship, or I'm watching the time constantly like it's almost midnight. I'm supposed to pray through the new year. I ain't doing it. And feel some kind, like I literally felt some kind of way that I went off. I prayed through the new year, came back. I was good. It was almost like a fix. But then I had to think about it. What did I just do?
And why did you just do it?
Why did I just do it? At that time, I did it because I was taught. There wasn't a lot of meaning behind it at that time. I just did it because, hey, it's New Year's. You pray through the New Year's. Go do it. You read, you pray, you do this, you do this, you do that. There's not a lot of meaning to learn from it or benefit yourself in doing so.
At that time.
That time. I mean, I've grown
to that
since then. And
right.
Yeah, find your own ways. But especially once you become an adult, you start to develop your own life, your own lifestyle. There are certain people that actually hit crossroads because now you've developed your own experiences. You've developed your own type of life, so to say, especially if you kind of branched off, moved away, what have you, have a family of your own, whatever it is that you're doing as an adult.
Somebody else with their own.
Exactly. You're joining with somebody else and you got they habits and your habits and trying to cohabitate.
Oh, look at you with these words.
Another one for this week. Seen that, right?
I
think I got it right too. So now you're trying to combine both habits and cohabitate. And now there's certain things that you may want to branch out and do, but in the back of your mind, you're just like, but we don't do that. That's just not what we do.
And who is we?
We is whatever is stopping you. It can be whatever family ties you've had. It can be cultural. They're like certain, I call, stereotypes, I guess you can call them. They're just things that certain races, you can say, don't do, or that people think they don't do, because there's a lot of things that are wrong. I need an example of this. I know you're reaching for one. I knew that was coming. That was coming. Okay. Let's say, for one.
You knew it was coming because you said it. Go ahead. Can I have an example, por favor?
Okay, just a quick example. So to say, this does not apply to everybody. However, it's not something that hasn't been discussed.
Okay.
Now, it can be said that black folk don't never got two things that match in their house.
Oh, no. No, you can't say that.
It's going there anyway.
That's not true.
It's not.
That's definitely not true.
It's not. Like I said, it doesn't apply to everybody. You want me to go into the fried chicken one? I mean,
What, that all black people don't like fried chicken?
no, that all black people eat fried chicken.
I'm trying to find one black person that doesn't, though.
There
Name
are
one.
some.
Name one that you know.
I mean,
Name one person that you know that's of African American descent or African descent that does not eat fried chicken.
hey, in this day, we have become very health conscious.
Unless they're vegan, then that's the only any Rastafarian that you know.
very health conscious that might not, indulge in the frying of the chicken.
Or didn't like it when they were eating meat.
Look, my point is
who you ain't never seen in a Popeyes line. Go ahead.
It's not only black folk that might be in that line.
Absolutely
all kinds
not.
of people.
Everybody
but
likes
it's
fried
put
chicken
out there that it's fried chicken with a black folk at because it's fried chicken.
I could say that the whole black people like watermelon thing is definitely false.
Now that
I know black people who do not like watermelon. They be like, I can't stand it. What's the point?
I don't do watermelon like that.
I just happen to love watermelon, and I happen to love fried chicken, but I only like dark meat. Like, don't give me a fried chicken breast because I'm not gonna eat it at all.
I agree. I'm a dark meat kind of gal.
Pause. 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 No, we're not gonna go there.
I have my preferences again.
In chicken, we're just talking about chicken. Can we stay on the chicken? I've never heard the black people don't have two of the same thing. And I've never heard that. Never. I've never heard that. That's the first time I've ever heard somebody say that. Like,
it was even in the movie Friday.
I didn't watch that
they had
movie.
Kool-Aid and no sugar, peanut butter, no jelly. They always got two things in their house that don't match.
I don't see how having peanut butter and no jelly is two things that don't match.
Because we used to having peanut butter. I'm not going to say we used to having peanut. Everybody's different. And there are times when you want a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
So when you have peanut butter and jelly and no bread, is that... I mean, that just sounds like it's time to go grocery shopping.
You're right. You are absolutely right.
Kool-Aid and no sugar. It's like, well, did they have a picture of Kool-Aid earlier because they used all the sugar with that? That last... like...
But obviously the sugar got more than one use. It's not just for the Kool-Aid.
But see, my thing is just like... I
milk,
used to be like,
cereal.
if you gonna have, but that's because certain people like a whole lot of milk with a little bit of cereal, and then you end up with an overabundance of cereal and not enough milk. And then you have the people who like a lot of cereal and not a lot of milk. So you end up with a lot of milk and cereal done.
I love how you make a lot of sense out of the foolishness of this conversation at this point in time.
Some people like more jelly than they like peanut butter, so the jelly go faster. I mean, that's something completely different. When I heard you say black people don't have two of the same thing in the house, I'm sitting here thinking they got a side table and then they got like a card table on the other side of the couch or something like the chairs on the dining room table don't match. You know, that's what I'm thinking, and I'm like, that's not true.
And where were you brought up? We could definitely.
What's that supposed to mean?
Cultural differences at this point.
Where is the cultural difference, sis? I'm like, where's the cultural difference?
You're
Again,
right. Okay.
I never really saw Friday. I never saw the movie all the way through.
How did you not see Friday all the way through?
Really wasn't into it.
It was Friday.
Friday was not my kind of day. I was a Saturday kid.
Oh, gotcha. All right. Well,
Preference.
that explains that. Preference. Yeah. Okay. Well,
I got to see Friday After Next.
how you see Friday After Next without Friday? let alone you didn't really have to see Friday
Exactly.
to see Friday. But you can't watch Friday after next and not see Friday.
I don't really remember Friday. I remember whatever little bit of clips that I saw, like, in between stuff or whatever came on television, like small clips of parts of the movie, but I never sat through the entire movie of Friday. Now, when did that movie come out? Because I have a feeling that when it did come out, I was not supposed to be watching it, and therefore I did not see it.
I could be wrong, but if my memory serves me correctly, I want to say it was around 96.
If it came out in the 90s, no, I don't want to fact check you because I can tell you I wasn't seeing that movie. Even when it came on television, I wasn't really allowed to see it.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of movies that came out the end of year. I was close enough. 1995. I was going to say 95, 96.
Yeah, I definitely was not allowed to watch that movie. How's that for cultural
conditioning? What were you watching at that time? Because even in episode 1, when I spoke of the things I was watching on Saturdays that didn't involve all the DC or Marvel characters, and I was watching BET and MTV videos.
In 95?
Oh, I was doing that for, yeah.
All right, so let's just say 95, because around that time I was either in 5th or 6th grade. So
we're just going to date ourselves. Okay, no problem. Go ahead.
I'm older than you, so don't feel bad.
Really? By how much? Okay, go ahead. We was in elementary school at that time. Elementary, middle.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So there was Sailor Moon, Ronin Warriors, Transformers, X-Men. That's what I was watching. And then as far as shows that I could watch on television, there's Buffy, Angel, Sister, Moesha, anything on the WB at that point.
UPN.
And UPN. Because again, Sister didn't have cable. Okay, so there was no BET, MTV, VH1. All that was a no.
Got you.
So if it came on Fox, the WB.
Was CW out there too?
The CW is UPN. Or UPN or the CW or whatever have you. So if it came on those stations, I watched it. So I did get to see like New York Undercover and Living Single and those things that came on those stations. But that's about it. And then I didn't really watch that much television because I was reading.
You were in the book.
Right.
And you were doing so because you wanted to.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's not necessarily because that's kind of the conditioning that I was going through in my age. In my age, I was not allowed to watch certain things. I couldn't listen to certain things. My mother was going through a change in her spiritual life. And so a lot of things shut down that I used to be able to do. And then, again, I also lived with people who were of a certain age. And they shut down a lot of things that I used to do. Or that most kids my age were doing.
Would you say that as you got older, it might have altered some of the things that you did?
Yeah.
Like what?
Everything. Because I didn't really start branching outside of what I was accustomed to doing under their roofs until like I graduated from high school and like left the house. And then I was exposed to things that were different than what I was accustomed to in the house.
So did you take those new experiences and gravitate to them because you weren't, familiar with them and growing up?
Some things I gravitated to because I just wanted to try it and say that I did it. But in a lot of the things, okay, let's say in my household, my parents were extremely tidy. Everything had a place and everything should be in its place at all times. So it's like I had a ritual from when I woke up in the morning until I went to bed. There's a ritual that has to be done. The minute I was on my own, I was like, peace.
All that went out the window.
Out the window. It's like when I say certain things, like I know how to do it. And I think those are some of the things that my parents now get upset with. They were like, you weren't raised this way. You right. You absolutely right. I know how to do it. I just don't want to do it anymore. Or I'm comfortable with not doing it up until a certain point. You know what I'm saying?
Were you able to acknowledge the reasons why they had you doing things a certain way?
Oh, I come to find out that I was, like I said, I was raised mostly with my grandparents and their siblings. Mm-hmm. So great aunts and uncles and people all retired. So there are things I found myself doing as a child, or things I found myself saying, or behaviors that I had that made me stand out to other kids in school as she is weird.
Right. Because you had a different home life.
Right. So mm-hmm. I was conditioned a certain way, to the point where it's like sometimes when I'm with my siblings and they're with their kids and I say something and they're like, oh my gosh, you're just like grandma, or you're just like mom. And I'll be like,
what do you expect? Who was I raised by?
I was like, I'm about to remind you of somebody that died 20 years ago in about a second if you don't get this kid. What are you talking about? What do you expect? But it's like, I can't help it because that's just how I was raised. So it used to come off to other people as, oh, she's kind of weird, or she's stush, or she thinks she's better than people. And I'd be like, what can I say? I am.
Oh. Well.
No, it was a joke. But let's just say, for example, my grandparents were raised in a system where it was about classes. You had levels,
right,
of where you were, right? People of this type of class acted this way. Mm-hmm. People who were not of that type of class acted that way. So you were taught how to act within your class. And you're taught to see that if they don't do these things, they're not of that class. And you should not be associated with people who are not of that class or higher.
Cultural conditioning.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, mind you, it's not so much of a class system in the United States as it is of a racial system.
Right.
So there was a bit of confusion for me once I got into school, because in the school system, it's the racial system rather than the class system. So it didn't matter. So when people acted a certain way, and I would just be like, is this how they supposed to? Is this what happens? Why am I in school?
I could imagine that being kind of a mind trip, because it didn't matter race at that time. You were just looking at status, or you were taught, and let's say status, by how to appropriate yourself based on whichever status.
Right. Like, let's just like,
and now you walk in here and you realize that it's more about your ethnicity than it is status.
What your status is. Right. So I was looked at weird from a lot of people here, because it was like, why is she doing that?
I want to say because you acted with high status because of how you were raised, but you were probably placed in the low status because of ethnicity, and you just didn't mix.
No, I did not mix well, and it was evident to all my relatives. My mother was definitely the first one to tell me where I could go and where I can't.
And I feel like that can also come from certain cultures. When certain cultures especially migrate into different areas.
Right. But I can say the reason why I say
they bring their culture with them. Even though you're living in a new land, at home
I got the straight culture. Is it because I'm dealing with people who didn't come to this country until they were good and well into their culture. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I lived with them, and so I got that type of raising, as opposed to maybe my siblings who's with with my mother, who did come from another country also, but she had to assimilate into, like, she had time to grow up in the United States and get that kind of cultural development. Okay. So when she has her kids, yes, they still hung out with they spent time with their grandparents, they learned certain things, but then they
kind of had a balance.
They got a balance. I got no balance. I still remember being the only kid in elementary school using a knife and fork to eat my food, and got it taken away because she sent me to school with an actual dinner fork and knife.
Oh, so you didn't eat with a spork.
What is that?
Oh, okay.
What type of disrespectful foolishness is that?
I see the difference now.
You see? Like, I was taught I can honestly say to this day, sometimes when I go to a restaurant that's considered fancy or upscale, I look at how many forks they give us.
And actually look at which forks for what meaning, and you can school the waiter or waitress on how the place setting is.
I wouldn't do that, but it's like, it's funny how people look at me when I walk into a place that's considered upscale, but then they hand me one fork, one knife, and one spoon sometimes, and it's the same fork you eat for every place setting. And I'm like,
I get it.
For every entree, it's like, nah, it's not how it works.
Not to be disrespectful whatsoever, and we know that there's no judgment anywhere in this conversation, but you don't look like you should know that.
And that is something I had to learn here, because that's not how I was raised. It didn't matter how I looked, it mattered how I acted. So,
and then you go out into the world where you realize,
and they're like, it doesn't matter how you act, guess how you look. That's what you is.
And
it used to get on people's nerves, because I couldn't. Look, to this day, I don't really accept it. You're not going to just treat me any old kind of way. And that's where that whole
stush vibe comes from.
Just not even stush. It's just that I didn't understand.
Would you like to say uppity?
No, I wouldn't even say uppity. I was like, you know how everyone's like, like I said, people used to talk to me like I was trash because they didn't understand why I acted the way that I acted. I did not let anything just go by. If I did my work to a standard, then it's mine. I'm not about to share it with anybody else because y'all don't have the same standard as me. And then, so now it's like, oh, she don't let us copy, or she always tell it, or she's this and she's that. She always talk.
You were expressing yourself
at the right time, and that was the problem. I was expressive in school as opposed to being outside of school, because I learned a lot by not speaking. And then when I start in a new environment, I really don't speak. That's till this day. I don't really talk when I'm in a new situation. I sit back and I watch. And I watch certain things and I decide what I can deal with and what I can't deal with. Because if you don't see me back in that same spot, then that means I ain't about to deal with it.
I guess I kind of picked up quickly because I didn't necessarily have that. I had school life, which was American life, and then I had home life, which was Caribbean life. Now, growing up, I felt for a very long time, my family failed to prepare me
for outside,
to differentiate that home life is not on the outside of home. So I'm going to school with my home life habits, words, language, everything. And kids is looking like, what is that? What are you talking about? What did you? And I am teaching. I am confident about my stuff. And I don't know why you don't know this. I know this.
Right. So they didn't look at you as you were weird?
I mean,
because that's the same type of mindset I had.
They did, but not to the point where I stood out so much. I guess I started from back then to try and find that silver lining. I would try to find the middle ground to be like, okay, then if you don't call it Vim, what do you call it? Oh, that's what you call it? Okay, Comet, Ajax, sure. It's the same product, people. We just call it the different things and find a way to bridge. And I eventually learned coming out of elementary school, like I got all of my training was in elementary. By the time I got to middle, I was good. I kind of had it down. I would know that if I go home, things I would do at home, things that my family and all that kind of stuff are probably not the same things that my friends are doing in their homes. Mm-hmm. Because even though we are here in America,
you weren't raised as an American.
weren't raised as quote unquote Americans.
That's how I felt elementary school, was me unlearning everything I learned at home and trying to remember not to bring it back inside the house. That's what elementary school was for me.
You had to learn to differentiate it too.
I mean, I knew that there was a difference, but I was like, okay, so if this is how outside works, then this is how it's going to work. And I would try to bring that back into my home. And those people put a big old stop sign like, oh yeah, I do. No. they pumped the brakes on that real quick. So then it was like, okay, so you have your home self and then you have your outside self. But I can't even sit here and say, like, I would have conversations with my grandparents and say, well, this is what everyone's doing outside. And they would be like, I don't care. Whether you're inside or outside, you're going to do what I tell you to do. So I still ended up being that weird kid that could not come outside, that could not go anywhere. Like, I was like, okay, after school, in elementary school, I had to walk straight back home. There was no if, ands, or but, let's go play on the playground until later and then walk home. Or, oh, there's something happening after school, let's go. Nah, bro, my granny is standing out at the corner. She can see me. She can see me leave the classroom. I can't even ride my bike to school. I couldn't do the ride your bike to school and lock it up in the lock on the little chain. No, she walked me to school with the bike, took the bike home, and walked it back when it was time to go. I was like, Miss, you might as well just leave the bike here. I was trying to get some independence, and they was like, oh, you don't need that. What do you need that for? You don't need that at all. So
now, see, there's a difference now. There's a difference in, I can remember a scenario that happened while I was in elementary school. It could have been termed as cultural conditioning, but at that time, my mother also took the time to give meaning behind it and teach the reasons why you do so or don't do so. Right. So, there's a difference. If you teach the meaning behind these things, then it helps you to develop, okay, these are things I'll probably carry on in life. Or, I get it, I don't really feel like doing this. I'm going to wait till I'm 18 to break out.
Right. See, that's because your mother was from a generation before, and then she came here. So she was at that point where she's possibly also assimilated into the American culture herself enough to be able to express to you that.
Not quite. Because the example that happened was, at that time in school, all the kids were sharing clothes.
Oh, what I...
Hold on, because I know there's a reaction from it. But let me get into exactly what I'm saying. Now, when I say sharing clothes, I mean like jackets. It's not like, we gonna switch shirts and we gonna switch shoes.
Which also eventually happened in middle school, where you would just come to school, like you leave the house in one outfit, and then when you get to school, your homegirl brought her wet seal shirt and stuff, and you put that on. Absolutely not.
You just told, no, what's yours is yours. You don't have nobody wear your stuff. You don't have, that's for you. So
I paid good money for these things.
Wanted to go jump in with these crew. I had a friend who, now see, I did it out the kindness of my heart. I wasn't out I was more so standing back watching everybody switch clothes. But I had a friend who said she was cold, so I took off my sweater and gave her my sweater for the whole day. End of the day, I got my sweater back because I know I have to go home. My mother has to see me with my sweater before I get into that car.
Back in here with lunchbox.
Now,
sweater.
It developed into something because my mother recognized what smells like that. Apparently, there was a certain stench that might have come with the sweater that never smelled like me before. And, you're a child. You out running, who knows? This child out in the field playing hot sun, blazing with the sweater on.
Sweater? The hell
and then I took it and I didn't just bring it in my bag. I put it back on because I didn't want it to be known that I gave somebody else my stuff. But I had to say, well, I gave it to so-and-so to wear. And we got into that whole conversation. This is your stuff. You don't give out your stuff. This belongs to you. But this is the reason why. And we had a whole hygiene conversation. So the hygiene conversation backed up the meaning of why you don't give your stuff out to other people. Your stuff belongs to you. What you leave this house with, you come right back with. And I find myself doing the same thing today with my child. As simple as, let me tell you, as simple as a toy. She's only going to her cousin's house. Everything get lost over there. But I figure if I start to teach her from now, okay, you want to pack a bag to go over there? No problem. you can pack a bag. Just make sure that whatever you pack in that bag comes right back to this house. What belongs to you belongs to you. But that comes with the explanation of she's experienced already, where she takes stuff over there, she leave it over there, she come back over here, and she starts to whine that she doesn't have it. So to prevent that, sure. But remember, if you take it, don't come back home without it, and then you start to cry because you don't have whichever toy or whichever book or whichever game or whichever this. What belongs to you belongs to you. Take care of your stuff. Manage your stuff. It comes with more reasons to be like, okay, all right, I need to make sure I keep an eye on my stuff. And it just starts with toys. But as she grows, it goes into other aspects, other objects.
There was no taking
things.
my toys anywhere. Girl, I had to ask to play with certain toys. Like, you know how kids have, yeah, you know, like how your daughter has a whole kitchen, right? Mm-hmm. She has a kitchen. She has knives and forks and plates and spoons and all that lovely stuff that goes with it. Right. Yeah. I had a tea set. Till this day, that tea set is immaculately kept. Why? Because I was not allowed to play with my tea set unless I was supervised by the person who bought it. And when I had it, I used it, I played with it. And the minute I looked like I was done, she said, pack it back up exactly how you took it out the box. It's still in the box.
Everything in me feels like you just didn't have a toy tea set. You probably had an actual tea set.
No, it was a toy tea set. But I'm assuming now it was her teaching me about how to care for your things. So it wasn't just go out and put, like, I had things that I wanted. I had dolls. I still have those dolls in their original dresses. Not because I was just, oh, they're collectors, because they are. But just the way that I took care of them, I found my box, it's a shoe box, and I opened it, and all the dolls that I've ever had were still in there with their original dresses, original combs and brushes, and shoes.
But see, it came with meaning to maintain and take care of your things.
Right.
I'm talking about those instances where you're just told to be told, and to the point where it turns into a habit that grows up with you in life.
Now, again, I didn't have these conversations. These are things that I came to understand as I became an adult.
Okay.
And we used to have to use things like, okay, there's a breakfast tea set. Handle it with care. You can't just wash it and put it in the dish or put it in the dishwasher. That has to be hand washed piece by piece and so. That's what I learned as an adult. But as a kid, it was like, I better not find anything out of place or it's gone.
So I mean, there's definitely benefits to certain things, and I believe that as we get older and branch off to develop our own, it's kind of like you have to decipher through all of that to see, okay, what am I going to keep? What am I going to throw away? Because times change, people change, the world changes, experiences. Some things last throughout the years, and some things, I don't want to say die out, but it has a different effect nowadays like than it did back then. For the lack of a better example, I don't know why this came into my mind. In Living Color. In Living Color was, I mean, at the top in its time. As many people are asking for reboots, we all know that show can't come back.
Nah, it won't be the same.
It can't.
It won't be the same. I haven't even watched.
Offensive.
I haven't even watched the old All That because I was like, I can't be the new All That. I was like, oh, I know.
It just doesn't work today the way it worked back then. So you kind of have to see, okay, this I can still use. This, not so much. This I'm going to pass down to continue on. But it's like when we start, I know I have found myself in predicaments where I'm a grown adult, but in the back of my mind, I'm still like, I don't know if I can do this. Am I allowed to do this? I don't think I should.
And you've asked that question before. I'd be like, who are you asking?
And then most of the times I'll call you up just to bounce it off of you to get a different opinion, a different perspective.
But it comes off as you asking for permission.
It feels like I'm asking permission because it's something I wasn't brought up in doing. You just don't do these things. But you were never told, why don't we do these things? So as I get older, I find myself in my own home, in my own lifestyle, just sitting down like, such and such is doing so. I wonder if I
used to get
go.
the religious guilt explanation for things. Like if I said, well, why don't we do this? Because God said that these things shouldn't happen, like staying out past 10 o'clock as a woman, a single woman, an adult single woman. God said women should not blah, blah, blah. I was like, where in the Bible does it say this? Where are you getting this? God spoke to you today when I said
when you was leaving.
Like when you saw me get ready at 8:30 because I said I'm going to go hang out with the girls. God told you absolutely not.
Unless you're going for an hour and a half.
Because then you get hit with, where are you going at this time of night? What? It's time of night?
It's not starting until 9:30.
It's 9:30 now. I'm supposed to meet up and we don't even get into the club until 1. I don't plan on being back until 5. The night is just starting. What are you talking about? It's like, no, I don't think that's appropriate. By who? Whose standards? Who set up this level of appropriateness?
But then you get to a point where some people, you either, it's two sides of the spectrum. You either get out and branch off and just never return.
That's what I did.
Or you get out, you test the water, you see what it's about. Or I guess there's 3 sides. You test the water, you see what it's about, and it's like, I like this, I'll keep this, but I know I need to stay on this road. Or you just never branch out ever. I feel like that lifestyle can be a little concerning because you never fully know what is there or if it can even benefit you. You just automatically rule it out because there's no meaning. It's just because.
Right. Like I can honestly say there are conversations about certain topics that I refuse to bring up with certain people because I know that based on the type of way that we grew up, it's not about to be a productive conversation.
It's like someone who is open to, you can be open to a conversation or to an experience without losing your foundation. But not everyone is capable of handling that.
Because it's their condition that whatever this is, whatever this opinion should be, this is what it is. Everybody feels that way in this family, or everybody feels this way, and that's what it's going to be. I don't really see the point of having any other thought about it. And I'd be like, damn, okay, all right, well, I'm not going to have that conversation with you. I'm going to just silently sit here and let you talk and tell us how wrong it is. And I'm like, okay. I don't feel the same way. And it's like, I had to stop asking questions at a certain point because if I fought it, it would be like, well, this is my house. And this is what we do. And this is how it's going to be. And when you turn 18, you can do whatever you want. And I took that literally.
Yeah, I didn't. Because 18 did not. I was told the U.S. might think you're an adult at 18. But you are still a child in my house.
See?
Even once I left the house. And 18 don't make you no adult. 21 don't make you no adult. I feel we finally hit adult standards once I got married and had a family of my own.
And yet,
it was still a little difficult.
It's a little sketchy. It's a little sketchy there when you have certain conversations. You can't say certain things. You don't feel comfortable having an adult conversation. I'm still not considered. I honestly feel like I still am not considered an adult, even at my age.
Rightful age.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, so we still gonna talk to me like I'm a kid? Because that's not really gonna work. That's not gonna work well. You've witnessed some of my my harsher moments where I've had to remind people, who the hell are you talking to?
Right.
I'm sorry. Let me go walk back outside and walk back into the house I pay for stuff for, and figure out who you talking to.
I mean, it can go either way. I look at things now to where, being that I am in my own environment, it definitely has brought up situations to have me question things that I was taught and look for answers. And it's just like, well, why did we do this? And certain things, I'll go back to my family and be like, all right, so you remember we would always do such and such and such. Why? I don't even And a lot of the time the answer is, I don't know. That's just what we did.
All the people that I have to ask those questions have already passed, and I wouldn't even bother ask my mom because it'd be like, she can't tell me. She really can't tell me because she was doing it based on the fact that's what she was told to do. So it's like, it is what it is. And there's things that I never agreed with as a child that I just kept to myself and quietly just dealt with. And then as I got older and I just broke away from all the things, I had to learn about why I felt the way that I felt, because I didn't have a way of discussing it with my family. They weren't there yet.
Or even expressing it to get more detail on.
Right.
Right.
So I think I'm at the age now where I'm open to conversation with my family to find out what they feel, what they think, and maybe they might be open to listening to how I feel and how I think. I've had more meaningful conversations with my mother now than I have ever had growing up.
And I think, well, for some, I won't say for everybody, this whole conversation doesn't apply to everybody. But as we grow and as we get older, at times it is easier to relate to certain things. I know that there's definitely certain topics that my mother and I just didn't touch until I got older. It's not that I didn't know about it. We just didn't have that discussion. But then, I had something to offer to it. And she was able to then lend some of her experiences at that time to whatever was going on. So the fact that I personally believe that people are forever changing, always changing. And I'm one of those that says to never stop learning. The day that you stop learning, not only educational wise, but just the people that you're with, your society, the area around you, your body, all of that, you have to continuously invest in learning because it's constantly changing.
Ain't that the truth, boy?
I have learned. I feel like I'm at another midterm exam with myself because I myself
can't wait for the finals. Like, what's that gonna be?
I ain't even looking forward to the finals because these midterms already got me.
I've seen the finals and I don't really like them so much. And we don't care about nobody's feelings.
But see,
don't care about.
But see, being that you know that now, you can better study for when the final comes.
Girl,
you might not have the
coconut oil is in everything. Fights against that Alzheimer's is not happening to me. I'm gonna remember who you are. Like, Lord, the finals. Are we on midterms right now? I feel like
I think I'm on midterm. I've had a couple quizzes.
Like every
some
year,
midterms.
Every year is a learning experience because every year I have changed. Emotionally, physically, spiritually, just changed. And I can honestly say I'm completely different than the person I was when I started this journey we call life. I'm not the child.
I would hope so.
Some people are not.
Some people don't.
Some people you can tell when they stop maturing. Like, oh, okay, you back in high school, sis. All right. Well, that works out for you.
It doesn't have to be all at once. But just to acknowledge something new and develop in that area. Right now, this whole world is on this whole fitness thing. I'm going to watch what I eat. I'm going to work out. That might not work for everybody. I feel like I have tried that for years and I just continue to fail. But I'm gaining more and more determination to pass one day. Mm-hmm. One day I'm gonna get it together, and I'm gonna stick to it because I look forward to it. I want to be my healthiest me. I'm not that consistent. But
I don't even think it's consistency as much as it is.
For me, it is.
I think it's just how you approach your life and your situations, because it's everything. When you're talking about being the healthiest you that you could be, it's everything correlates with that.
Mental, physical, spiritual, all of that.
In order to achieve it. So when you say, oh, it's just consistency, you can consistently do something. But if there's another portion of this whole thing that is not changing, your consistency means nothing.
I mean, you might not be able to tackle everything all at once either. And that's one thing I had to look at. So when I was falling off with working out and quote unquote eating right, I had to take a step back, not to really get on myself, because I know I am my own worst critic, but look at it to see what was it I was working on. And I know I can budget to a T at this point. I was aligning my finances, attempting to get some things cleared up, get my budget going. So I wasn't necessarily stagnant. I was just moving or improving and learning myself in a different area. Mm-hmm. And as long as we are focusing on something and relearning and learning new things, I think that we're always growing. It's in those times where we just like, nope, I know it, I'm gonna leave it alone, it's done, that we lose sight, or we start to just dismiss things without a reason.
I don't understand why you're looking at me like that.
I'm not. I'm just
okay.
There was no purpose in that look whatsoever.
I was like, what did I dismiss?
I apologize. I didn't give a reason for the look I just gave you.
I'm supposed to be conditioned to know what those looks are.
Exactly. And you didn't pick up on it.
I didn't. I think it's the glare from the light. I can't really see your eyes. I feel bad. I'll pick up on the next one.
Don't feel bad.
But that's the conditioning that I've had as a child. You better feel bad if you don't do what I told you to do. Feel bad. Guilt. Oh my gosh. Can I tell you? I can't wait to get old. That's the other thing. We've had this conversation before, and there are certain things I said, I can't wait to get old to do to my children or my grandchildren and stuff that will happen to me. And you're like, what? Why don't you break the cycle? Fuck that. I've been looking forward to snap.
You're not helping the cause, Tina. That's not what we're striving for.
Look, I didn't live through this. Just so I could just break the cycle, forget that cycle. I was waiting for it. So in my turn, I'm letting loose. I'm letting loose. Everybody gonna get it. Talk about all your business to everyone. Promise you. Somebody gonna come through and say, hey, how you doing, Miss Tina? Well, let me tell you what. My granddaughter, she got one hell of a son of a bitch she married to. I can't stand it. I'm doing it. I'm going to sit here and cuss out my kids. Be like, I raised your kids. I didn't have to do that. You should have took your day. I'm doing it. I was promised.
You know what? As long as you have a goal in sight, you strive for that goal.
I'm striving for it, boy. Oh, first, I have to have some children in order to get this thing going. I'm just be cussing out nieces and nephews.
You might have to find the sperm to do that first.
That's a bit much. I don't just need the
Is
sperm.
there another way to develop children?
I need somebody attached to the sperm.
Oh,
because they have to have a father. Because I am a checkout mom. I'm like, all right, I've had enough, mommy, and today. Go get your daddy. You gotta be a part of this. Cause I won't be that. Oh my God, I'm always on. I don't think I will be, just based on my personality. All of you guys say it's gonna be different when you have your own kids. I'm like,
you never know. Everybody is different. Everybody handles everything differently. I know I heard a lot of, oh, this is going to happen. You're going to be like this. You're going to be like that. once I got pregnant, and I'm just like, yeah, I don't know what none of y'all are talking about. I'm one of those, I think I purposely fight the stereotype anyway.
Which stereotype are you fighting? Because you fit all of mine, but go ahead.
What you mean? What stereotypes you have about me?
Which stereotypes are you fighting? Because cultural conditioning, you fit those.
No. Stick a pin. We coming back to that. So, just like, oh, you going to be emotional and you going to do the... I wasn't. I didn't have no issues with any of that. I didn't have... Well, my upbringing didn't necessarily have anything to do with handling pregnancy. Did it? I don't think it did.
It sure did shape you on how you handle situations. It does.
Yeah, it did.
That's why we have these conversations.
I did pick up on that, but I was on the specific topic
of pregnancy. Right.
It's even like, I personally can't stand, but I do acknowledge that some women really do deal with, slight imbalance. But once women, go on their menstrual cycle, it's just like, oh, she about to go off. She about to do this. Here comes the attitude. Here comes the chocolate. And I'm just like, well, what women is that? Because I don't behave
that's
that
the other
way.
thing. I think it also really does. How did you handle stressful situations before you got pregnant? You weren't the type of person to go off.
Well, I personally won't say that had to be with how I was raised. I think that just came with things that I experienced, because dealing with a lot of health complications growing up.
Pregnancy was shit.
I'm trying to stay focused, Tina. You're not helping. So,
my bad.
Actually, it was. It topped it, but I blacked out most of it, so it was all right. But so for me, I dealt with ovarian cysts, as you would know, and a lot of ruptures that were extremely painful.
Yes
in and out of the hospital
for you and everyone around you.
And I acknowledge that. And until this day, I do appreciate everybody who would help in those times. I mean, there were times where I can deal with it. There were times where it got bad. There was no going to school, couldn't walk, couldn't feed myself, couldn't go to the bathroom, just nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So dealing with that kind of gave me a different outlook on other things. Because I'm just like, you know what? As bad as the situation is, it's not as bad as this. Mm-hmm. I compared a lot of things to those moments. And at that time, I also felt some kind of way about everybody having this, like, I took it as everybody had to stop their life to cater to me. Mm-hmm. And I didn't like it. That had its own effect on me that I kept inside of myself for years.
Why did you feel that way? I'm sorry. I know this has nothing to do with the topic, but now that you brought it up, I want to know why you felt that way, because honestly, I can only see that if anybody cared about you, they want to make sure you're okay. Because to watch you be in pain, and I'm not saying you specifically, I'm just saying anybody that you care about, to watch them be in pain.
And there's nothing you can do about it. For me, though, it was
fix
hard.
This.
It was hard.
We're going to fix this. Right.
It was difficult for me to process the instant change of, from 1 minute, we're up, we're hanging out, we're dancing, and the next minute I'm just stuck in bed. And now...
Wait, there was an instant change? Because it usually was a gradual thing. Like, we had a great time the night before we go to bed, and where's Marie? Yeah, sometime between the time we went to bed and what time we woke up, she's having a hard day.
Well, I mean, for me, it kind of felt instant. As I got older, it got worse, and I learned. That's the thing. That many situations, but I'm just going to use that since we're talking about it, taught me how to manage crisis. Because I started to develop not ways to solve it, but just how to manage. So I can start to tell when I'm getting ready to have a rupture, what I need to do. Okay, I probably need to get home, or I need to go get this meds or what have you, and all the other kind of stuff. So I was great at managing it that a lot of people wouldn't even know. I might go missing for about a week, but I'm going to pop back up and I'm going to resurface and I'm good. You had no clue what I just endured the past 7 days.
You think we didn't have a clue?
Well, there are other
we
people.
did.
I know y'all did because y'all were there. Y'all kind of went through it with me. But it was hard for me to process going from like helping others and now needing help yourself. So, I mean, you can call it pride. You can call it whatever you want. I felt bad, especially, I know that there are other things that we could have been doing. I know that my mother just came home from work. Now she has to try and help me. I know that if it had not been for this, we can be out watching a movie, just whatever. But instead, we can't do those things because we have to help Marie. That's how I took it for a very long time. It's really not up until the surgery I started to express a lot of that, because it was a lot of people that was involved outside of my friends, outside of my family. I mean, it got really extensive as I got older. This tracked on for 14 years. 14 years of my life was...
They'd have to take the whole...
That's what I was trying to avoid.
I know, yeah.
Because being so young...
That's how we got here.
For a long time, my mother would knock it off to say, well, everybody is different. You might be having headaches. You might be having this. Your body's going through changes, such and such and such. But it gradually just got worse and worse and worse, to the point where it's like, okay, we need to go and find out what's going on.
I have a question. And all of this that you're saying, you saying that you've learned to handle these situations from your experiences, but you don't think you've learned anything outside of just dealing with before all of this happened, or before all these experiences happened. You don't think you've learned a little bit about handling situations from the examples that you had in your home?
Of course. That absolutely does play a part.
Because there are things
in it as well
to this day that I do that I know that I did during situations that I have to go back to say, I've seen someone do this. Like, I know exactly who I channeled when I handled that situation. Like, in times of crisis, I turn into my grandmother.
I'm going to give an example. There are times in stressful moments, if I'm stressed, if I'm thinking about something, if I'm trying to figure something out, everything gets cut out. I just start to clean. It's just time to clean. And I find that even if I might start off cleaning, and I'm talking about, I'm about to reorganize this entire house.
Deep clean.
I'm about to move furniture. Everything.
So who is it that you channel?
My mother.
Okay. All right.
But I had to realize, okay, yeah, I seen it done probably when we were younger, and that kicked in for her. It to us was like, oh, it's time to clean. Okay, everybody just go clean. But I never really looked at her to wonder, why just out the blue are we just going to start doing, home improvement repairs on this house?
Because we don't ask questions.
Exactly. We just not seen and not heard.
We saw it.
But as I got older and I noticed, going through things in my life, break down, time to clean. I said, wait a minute. I just cleaned yesterday. Why am I doing all of this today? I was distracting myself from actually dealing with an issue. And then, I kind of had that conversation with my mom, and she can then think back and be like, you know what? You're right. There are a lot of times to where, she was going through things and she would that's just what she would do. So, yeah, it comes from how we were raised, or people that we've seen, or just things that we might emulate. But the whole point is find out why you behave a certain way. And that's what I started to do, which brings me back to my midterms. I am in my rediscovery mode of going through various things and just discovering this new sense of self as to, why do I behave this way? Why am I doing this? Why do I pop off when people say this, and that? It's their opinion, but why does it affect me so much? I have to then look at myself, because I can't change nobody else, but I can change me. But Yeah. So a lot of different experiences cater to how we've developed as adults. A lot of things have either been culturally conditioned within us, religiously or spiritually conditioned within us. Society can condition us to feel a certain way, behave a certain way. It doesn't mean that we have to stay that way.
Very true.
Pick and choose what works for you.
Yeah. I guess that makes sense. What happens after we pass the section of why we do certain things? Because I stopped asking why I do it. I just do it. If it feels comfortable, it doesn't affect me negatively, then why am I asking why? Just do it. Like the whole channeling, I know who I channel. Certain things that I do, like especially at work, when we have a situation and then I have to fix it, I turn in straight to my grandmother. No doubts about anything. I am her. And especially when I get down to writing everything down. Like you always ask me, why do you always write everything down? That's not me you're talking to. You're talking to my grandmother because that's what she does. She writes everything down.
That is a little nerve-wracking. So
it's all right. She's left.
Should I address you differently the next time I question?
I would respond because I wouldn't be thinking.
I mean, it doesn't always have to be negative to question. I think the negative situations or impulses are what cause us to question because it's unsettling. If something is going good, you rarely question anything that's going good because you're enjoying it. It's good. It's only when something is bad, then it's like, why is this happening? Because who likes to sit in crap? Nobody.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. What happens after you've reached the level where you're asking the questions? You're asking, well, why do we do this? Why do we think like this? Why have we been doing it all this way?
After you are able
all this time
to develop an answer, it can propel you into a different level or take you into different directions. It opens more doors for you because then you start to learn, well, you know what? Now that I know this is why I do things, is it beneficial for me? Some things may not be, some things may be. It all depends on what those things are. The more you begin to learn about yourself, the more you can better handle yourself, appropriate yourself in different situations around you, because we can act a certain way with people and, just disregard it. This is just who I am. Take it or leave it. And if that's what it is, that's what it is. Go ahead. Flow with it. But I think personally for me, I've done that. I've also looked at situations to where I wasn't comfortable with how things turned out. And because certain things didn't turn out that way, or I find myself in repeated situations, it gets to a point where I can't change the people involved in this situation. What is it about me that keeps attracting this situation? What is it that I'm doing that I find myself in this same spot all the time? Because at this point, A, B, and C, and you are the common denominator in all of these situations. We can sit here and blame A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, and you're going to be here a very long time. Or you can take that time to be like, all right, so I noticed that in the past X amount of years, every time I ran into this, and that, I reacted this way. Why do I react this way? What is it about it that is triggering me to act this way? And you start to dive into yourself and find those answers, you might be able to appropriate yourself differently. And it's not to please everybody else. It's to create a better you, a healthier you, whatever that can be. And it comes from, what are you comfortable with? If you're comfortable like that, go with it. Whatever it is that you do, just do it 100. Be 100 in whatever direction you go. Did I completely answer?
Yeah, that definitely completely answered my question. Made me forget what I was just about to say.
I do apologize. Maybe you should have written it down.
Okay. All right.
Forgot to channel that time.
I remembered what I was going to say, and then you interrupted me with the pen and paper joke. But that's all right. Okay. Get your joke. Slide in where you can. Pause.
Pause.
Sounds like that takes a tremendous amount of confidence to complete what you're saying. Like, I get, make the change for you, not necessarily for other people, and build a better you. It sounds like that takes some confidence to do, because change requires, to me,
courage.
All right, cowardly lion.
It depends on what it is and who you are. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's an individual thing, and what you're changing. Right, it's an individual thing. Some things aren't that difficult to change. Some things can be. I mean, I can remember being told, like, for some of those people who lost limbs, the body still reacts as if that limb is still there, and they now have to kind of reprogram themselves to function without that limb, because the brain is over here still like, hey, wave with your right hand, but that right hand been gone, right?
It's waving though. It's phantom limb syndrome.
It is.
It's over there
gone.
Just waving.
So it's like there's certain things that we have embedded within us for so long. It's going to take some time shifting away from it to be like, okay, this thing, I ain't really like dealing with it anymore. This is something that I don't see benefiting me at this point of my life. Maybe it's just the timing. Right now, it ain't for me. But I've acted like this for so long. It's not going to be like a light switch. You're going to have to take that time to kind of trial and error. How you going to do this? How you going to manage until you eventually do it? I think it's not necessarily courage. It's more of endurance. Are you going to stick it out to really figure this thing out or not? Again, if you choose not to, it's your prerogative.
All right, Bobby. All right.
And that is our time for today's episode number 2. We hope that you enjoyed this conversation as much as we have.
We also hope that this has sparked conversations that you might have with your friends, your family, even with us. Talk back to us, sis. We're listening. We're not there, but we're listening.
We are here for you.
That's right. Don't forget to comment on our Instagram, which is
at The Dialogue Podcast.
Or you can catch us on our YouTube.
Just search The Dialogue Podcast.
And definitely leave some feedback, comments, subscribe, like, whatever it is. Share. Most definitely share.
Subscribe. Oh, you said subscribe.
I did say subscribe.
All right. Subscribe. We appreciate all of the feedback, all of the love that we get from doing this podcast, and we enjoy that you enjoy it.
Yes, we do.
So until next Wednesday, midday,
right?
New episode number 3.
Stay safe, stay blessed,
and still stay home,
and have some dialogue.